Our session will focus on open publication, and you know that publication and research are two intricate activities for now centuries, and but there is change, and there are a lot of change with also the digital technologies. And I like to share this screenshot of the first pages of Tim Berners-Lee, founder of the World Wide Web. And he just shared all his articles online. And today, with our two presentations, we will see that, and we start seeing this complexity of the situation for science and for open science. In one part, we have the researcher, and with the web, it's possible to share knowledge and also to innovate, to change this format of publication. And on the other parts, there are a lot of stakeholders involved in science, and it's a big, big machinery. And it's really, really complex to do this transition to open science and open publication. And we will start our first presentation with Colleen. Colleen is a part of an organization which is the Open Access 2020 Initiatives, which is coordinated by the Max Planck Digital Library on behalf of the global research community. And Colleen also served on the Open Access Working Group of LIBER, Ligue des Bibliothèques Européennes de Recherche, and recently organized the 14th Berlin Open Access Conference. Colleen? Your presentation is here. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. It's really an honor. I don't often get to speak with researchers. In my work, I usually talk with librarians. I don't know if you remember librarians. Do you remember what they look like? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, I can't see. I'm going to move a little bit over here. So my talk is, what will it take to make open access the default in scholarly communication? Now, I don't know how much you know about open access publishing. Open access is just one small thread in the larger taxonomy of open science. And I'm sure you know a lot more about publishing articles than I do as researchers. So to start with, I thought maybe we could make sure we're sort of on the same page so that I understand who you are. And so to start, I want you to just stop a moment and think about, in your research, in your field, what is that seminal journal? What are those seminal journals? What journal do you aspire to publish in? What journals do you work with? And if you think about that first seminal journal, but that is your, North Star, if you will, think about right now, do you have access to that journal? And if you move to a different institution, will you still have access to that journal? I don't know, is that journal an open access journal, or is it a subscription journal? Open access journal? Yeah. Okay. All right, so I think we're kind of on the same page about why open access is important. So let's get started. What do researchers want? Now, again, I'm not a researcher, so I've just thrown up a few ideas that I've heard from researchers in the past, and I want you to validate this for me. You want access to everything, is that right? Okay. You want your articles to be read and highly cited? Yes. Okay. You want the rights to share and reuse your work? Okay. You want to collaborate with other authors? Yeah, okay. You want to maintain your own workflows? Okay. And you want to publish in your favorite journals? Okay. Now here I am going to just briefly say that, and we touched upon it before, impact factor is a problem. The evaluation systems are a problem. I'm not going to talk about that, but I recognize that that is a huge problem that needs to be dealt with. But we all come from our different environments. Bonnie from the funding community, myself from the research library community, and we all do what we can in our fields to put pressure in the system, okay? Okay, so let's move on and think about the vision for open access. This has been referenced before, the Budapest Initiative for Open Access, way back in 2002, so 16 years ago now, and you can read there the text, one of the key texts of what the research community said that it wanted. Now, where are we today, some 16 years later? What progress has been made? I won't dwell too much on this. It's just a snapshot. In all of my slides, I've given you the references so you can go look them up. This is just one snapshot of where we are today in the availability of research articles. And you see, I'm sure you all know about there is green open access, where published works are made available in another format, gold open access, where the article is published immediately open access in a journal, hybrid, meaning a subscription journal, where one article inside the article is published open access, right? Then you have bronze. Bronze is this, when content is made available on the publisher website, but he actually holds the rights to that, the publisher. So it's not certain that the content will remain open there. He has free to choose, do what he wants. And then, of course, closed access. So you see, in our 16 years, we've made some progress, but I would say not a lot. I mean, this is just a snapshot. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I wanted to make sure we understood some of the definitions and have a general idea of where we are today. Would you agree that we need to do something more? Okay, still on the same page. Okay. Another problem with the system that we have today, in which some 80% of scholarly research is published behind a subscription paywall, is this. Having paywalls has a lot of negative impact. It creates piracy. It breeds piracy. It's hindering the advancement of science. I think we can all be in agreement about that. So we need to think about this subscription paywall as our objective. Now, why are we still in this position? Why is it that 80% of our articles are still published behind paywalls? There are a lot of reasons. The reward and evaluation system is one reason, but there was a researcher, Bo Christer Bjork, a researcher of scholarly publishing, who chose to use a business analysis tool called the Porter's 5 Forces Framework to analyze the profitability of the scholarly publishing industry. And I'm going to walk through this with you because it's something that gives us a lot of insight into why we are where we are still today. So he said the problem with scholarly publishing and why there is not more of a shift to open access is because scholarly publishing is highly profitable, incredibly profitable for subscription publishers. In a market, what keeps costs down is when there is market pressure, okay? Where there is lack of market pressure, then the suppliers, those who are selling the goods, can increase their profitability, all right? So now, if we look at this and we think about scholarly publishing, in our marketplace, the bargaining power of suppliers. Who are the suppliers? Who supplies? Sorry? You are, exactly. You are the suppliers of the goods. You are producing the research. It's your articles. You are doing the work. You are on the editorial boards. You are the reviewers. You are producing the goods. So tell me, what pressure are you putting onto the marketplace? Zero. That's exactly right. Yeah, zero market pressure. You're giving away your work for free. In exchange, of course, for reputation, if you will. So this market force is not putting much pressure. Now, the next market force, the bargaining power of buyers. Do you know who the buyers are in this situation? Okay, well, I like that you say us. That's wonderful, because that shows an identity with your institution and therefore your library. Yeah. The universities, okay, perfect. Yes, your universities are forking out, millions of euro a year to access this content that you have given to the publishers for free, okay? And are they putting pressure on the marketplace? Okay, yes, there is some pressure put there, but I will explain one thing that you might not be aware of. So I'm working for a library. I'm going to give you lots of insights from the library world that perhaps you don't know about, okay? The libraries, when they pay, let's just say Elsevier, when they pay Elsevier for the annual subscription for your institution, they pay a price that you will not find online. You can't go check the price of that subscription. That price was created back in 1996, 97, when everything went digital. And at that moment, when they were thinking about how much will it cost to access the content online, of course, the publishers at the time were very worried about, this digital revolution. They didn't know how to maintain, the revenues that they had. So they based the price on the historical expenditure of the print. So at a university, maybe there were 10 subscriptions to one journal, because one department had a subscription in print, another had another subscription. And when it came time to move all of those subscriptions online, they simply added them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that was the price, okay? That was the basis. And your institutions today are not able to put much market pressure on in the marketplace, because you don't know what the institution next door pays, right? Because everyone came from a different situation. So with no transparency into what we are paying, we can't have any control of that price. So moving right along, threat of new entrants. In scholarly publishing, who would be the new entrants to the marketplace? Any ideas? Okay, preprints. I would actually put preprints over in substitutes myself. But yeah, this is absolutely a valid, rising force in changing the system. Over here on new entrants, I would put the new open access journals, for example. PLOS was mentioned before, Public Library of Science. eLife, right, yeah. But again, so far, we've been at this a while, so far, their publishing numbers are still not large enough to even compare with the large subscription publishers, right? Over on the right, the threat of substitutes, that might also be your repositories, right? Something like Archive. But again, I know that a huge majority of the content that is placed on preprint servers, for example, actually go on to be published in subscription journals, right? So somehow that's not really changing the system. The same with repositories, excuse me. So finally, we're left with the last force in the center, and that is industry rivalry. And here we think about the producers of journals, Elsevier, Wiley, Springer, but they are not competing with themselves either, because so far each has a very individual portfolio of journals, and it's not really, you can't compare one to the other. Oh, well, I will take Wiley and I won't take Elsevier. You want them all, right? So this has led to a very lucrative business for publishers. And this is where, with this like deadlock, it's hard for us to change the system. So, I mean, there are, yes, of course, we can talk about preprints, and we'll hear more about preprints in the next presentation, I think. I mean, there is progress being made, of course. Some researchers say, let's change the system. Let's just step away from subscriptions. Here, this is a news from just yesterday. A journal, the entire editorial board of a journal, which was called the Journal of Informatics, was dissatisfied with the business practices of Elsevier, and they stepped down and formed their new journal, an open access journal, to be published by MIT Press. Fantastic. That's a great, I mean, this is a great thing, right? It's very moving, it's very inspiring, it's wonderful for research. However, what did not happen in this situation? Do you think Elsevier, that Journal of Informatics is part of a nice big package of journals that Elsevier licenses to your institutions? And since that journal basically no longer exists, it's a ghost journal, has now gone to be published open access by MIT Press, do you think that Elsevier has reduced the cost of that package? No, correct. And this has happened before. So this is our problem here. I think what I'm going to talk to you about is the money that's invested in the system and what we can do about the money. Our money of institutions, is tied up in subscriptions. This is a graphic from the US organization, the Association of Research Libraries. And what I really want you to see here, you don't have to look too high in detail, but the red line is consumer price index. So that's inflation, okay, over the past, since 1986. And the line at the top is the percentage increase in subscription expenditures, how much it costs to license subscriptions. It has risen disproportionately over the past 2 decades. So let's think a moment about what the numbers tell us. Right now, and we know this because we can look at the annual reports of, oh, whoa, okay, I'm gonna go fast, sorry. The annual reports of the publishers, we can see how much money they're making. Our institutions pay 7.6 billion euro a year in subscriptions. In those journals, there are 2 million articles published a year. That comes out to a cost of 3,800 euro per article to subscribe to it. Now, we know, however, that publishing, the real cost of publishing, is much less, right? Actually, we have data that proves that open access publishing can cost less than 2,000 euro per article. So, if we take this expenditure of 7.6 billion euro and we subtract the actual cost to produce those articles in journals, we see that there is a huge amount of money going in publisher profit margins, right? So I'm just going to very quickly, to understand how much open access publishing actually costs, there is an initiative called Open APC that I encourage you to talk to your institutions about. If you do not already, you should be collectively gathering the APC information that what you are paying in APCs, gathering that at your institutions and sharing it with Open APC, so we can start tracking the actual cost. And because this is leverage when we go talk to publishers. just here's the second screenshot of this group. I'm looking at France. The average cost per article open access is 1,673 euro. It's a lot less than the 3,800 happening in subscriptions. Now, open access publishing is growing, so this is a good thing, right? We are making some progress. If you can see here, the list of titles, those in gray, these are the largest journals in the world today. The ones in gray are pure open access journals, so that's a great success. PLOS One, actually this is from 2016. I'm afraid that PLOS One is now no longer in first place. It's now Scientific Reports, which is published by whom? Yes, Nature, a subscription publisher. So the publishers who make money off of subscriptions are now also making money off of open access. So what does this mean? Right now, you are paying open access costs to those journals, like Scientific Reports, and that money is increasing and increasing and increasing, and there's no one with any oversight to that money going to publishers. Libraries in institutions, they subscribe for the whole institution. But you as individual researchers, if you want to get published, you pay. There's nobody helping you with that or gathering all of the information for your institution and negotiating on your behalf. Because there is no oversight and monitoring, we have situations where hybrid journals, you can publish in hybrid journals, and the costs of publishing open access in those hybrid journals is higher for no real reason, because here, if we look at the level of the SNP, the costs, you have the gold on the left and the green is hybrid. We now have Plan S, who's going to do something about that, and I'll get to that very quickly. So, how are we going to solve this situation? We're going to solve it with a global initiative, because as we heard before, scholarly publishing is collaborative. It's a global interest. Publishers are global. So if we want to solve the situation, and I'm out of time, forgive me. Could I go through this and we have less time for questions? Would you give this to me? Thank you. I will try to go fast. So this is a snapshot of the Berlin Open Access Conference, which happened last month. Who you have here on the left is Ron Mohamed, who is the CEO of Elsevier. And we invited him to the conference, and we sat him down before a panel in which we had representatives from China, from the US, from Japan, from Europe, from Africa, from the European University Association, from Science Europe, and we together collectively said, enough is enough. This isn't on anymore. We are the producers and the consumers of the research in your journals. We demand a shift in the market. Basically, what we are trying to do with my initiative is shift the money, which is now tied up in copyrighted materials, where the publishers own the copyright, and shift it over to open access. So how are we going to do that? First of all, it may sound very daunting, but it's actually, if we think about the money involved, 70% of the money we spend in subscriptions is going to a very small number of publishers. So we don't have to change all of the world today. By starting with these 7, starting there, we can achieve a lot of impact. So one of the key strategies that you might be hearing more about is the strategy of the Transformative Agreement. In fact, so my institution is in Germany, Max Planck Digital Library, and we are part of a larger group called DEAL that is negotiating with the 3 largest publishers to transform the articles that are produced in Germany into open access. And how does this work? I want you to see this so you can think about it in the future. Right now, up at the top, you see here, your universities pay for a subscription, and it's paid in one lump sum, one big package lump sum. In addition, at the bottom, you see there is also money that you pay for publishing your articles open access. With the Transformative Agreement, the key step is to take those big chunks of money and associate them with the article. So the money goes from paying for subscriptions to paying for open access publishing of the individual articles. Because if we get to that point where we are paying for articles, where, by the way, the cost and the price is transparent, because you can see on a journal website, what does it cost to publish open access in that journal? When we get the transparency, then we can apply market pressure to control the costs, and we can let the money flow where the researchers want it to flow. Maybe in the future it will not be a journal. Maybe it will be something else. But the first step is to untie that money. Now, in transformative agreements, you have to be prepared to step away from the table. Perhaps you are aware, over 200 institutions in Germany today do not have access to Elsevier because they said, no, we want open access or nothing. And no one's complaining, by the way. They're dealing with it. But I also want you to understand that you have a lot of power. At the University of California, they are also taking on Elsevier right now. And I've just spoken about Elsevier because it's Elsevier, but I mean, we could talk about many publishers. The researchers themselves they got together and they went to their university president and said, you need to do something about this. We want our journals, but we also want them to be open access. And so it was the researchers. They didn't wait for a mandate or a policy. Well, they had a policy, but the researchers went to the presidents and said, you need to fix this. Fix it with the publisher. University of California constitutes 10% of the US research output. So if they succeed, that's a huge chunk. If Germany succeeds, another huge chunk. This is how the global movement can actually have a huge impact. And in fact, that is the OA 2020 initiative. And you'll see the folks around the world who are already committed and working, and I'm afraid. Yes, okay, and we're done. However, the good news is that in France, I know you have a very green open access perspective, okay, which is fine because right now, I think we're all a little bit beyond talking about green or gold. Let's stop talking about our differences and talk about complete and immediate open access together. So, how long will it take? It's up to you all. It's up to you to get involved and stop paying for subscriptions. Plan S, one final note. Plan S, the way we view it as libraries is we see Plan S as something that did not aim to constrict researchers. It's a way of taking money away from publishers. Okay, we saw before the open access, the hybrid, and what's happening with hybrid APCs. If we take the money away from the publishers for hybrid, and we take the money away from subscriptions, those two things together are the leverage that it needs, all stakeholders around the world, to have the subscription system fall. So there you are. Together, if we are all aligned, we can unlock the subscriptions, the money we're paying, so that it can flow to the researchers and where they want to publish. So, thank you. I apologize.